Guys, did you know that Kraken now has fully customizable trading interfaces? This is probably a huge shift from what you knew Kraken to be. Everything about Kraken has changed. So I highly suggest if you don't have a Kraken account, click that link below, sign up, and check out Kraken Pro. Today, Jerome Powell spoke at the annual Economic Policy Conference in Jackson Hole, and the overarching tone was hawkish. Jerome Powell stated that although inflation has moved down from its peak, a well-welcomed development, it remains too high. The Fed is still much too concerned about the core personal consumption expenditures. Powell pointed to core PCE as his main focus, which is far from the Fed's 2% target. We can see that this chart from today is showing it around 4%. He went on to say that the lower monthly readings for core inflation in June and July were welcome, but 2 months of good data are only the beginning of what it will take to build confidence that the inflation is moving down sustainably toward our goal. To sum it up, inflation has tumbled in recent months, but it isn't yet at an acceptable level. Officials at the central bank are prepared to do whatever it takes to bring the rates down to their 2% target. And if you look at the US dollar index today, the US dollar index, this is one of the big stories of the day. We are breaking out of our downward sloping resistance, and we are also hitting the highest prices since May of this year. And it looks like we may be getting close to seeing the highest weekly candle close since February of this year. We are really just a couple ticks away. And so this is definitely getting people spooked in the market, looking at the federal funds rate. And it seems like what we're seeing now is that the rates are probably going to see further hikes before pausing for likely longer than people expect, which is going to allow the US dollar index to probably get some more lift within this region. Whenever the US dollar index is falling into these channels, we usually have a pretty substantial breakout as a result. So something along those lines is what I'm expecting at this point, is the US dollar index to come up, sustain higher levels in a sideways channel, and then dump in 2024. And that should allow us to initiate a healthy halving cycle. But until then, what does it mean for Bitcoin if the US dollar index is going to be maintaining higher levels before coming down to 2024? Well, it could mean that we are going to have substantially suppressed prices. We can see that even today and recently, we have been seeing just that. Bitcoin has fallen below its log scale upward sloping trend line. And our mid-cycle correction periods usually result in a lot of sideways action, right? You see the price goes up and down, up and down, up and down, and you have no significant change in price with high volatility along the way. And that is classic Bitcoin, right? High volatility, yet no significant change in price until the halving cycle begins. This is how things just usually play out in these Bitcoin cycles. Bringing up that US dollar index, what we can see is after seeing a huge impulse up, the price of Bitcoin is usually moving sideways, impulse up, moving sideways, generally speaking, impulse up, moving sideways. Normally, we get this sideways channel and we don't really get bullish until we break down. And the US dollar index is currently breaking out up. And like we said, maybe sometime in 2024, when we have rates possibly being reduced, then we could see some movement down for the US dollar index, which would help initiate the bull run. But until then, Bitcoin, there's so many types of possibilities here. So many things could happen. Depending on how strong the US dollar index is, we may see Bitcoin trend down, actually trickle down into this zone. We could go as low as the lows, I'm not calling for a pullback to the lows. I'm saying that based on, previous cycles, getting a retest of the lows is definitely a possibility as the US dollar index sustains these higher levels. Maintaining those high levels of rates puts some pressure on the markets and the economy. It's only until we get a full pivot that pressure is going to be released off of the markets and the economy. So just looking at the technicals, just looking at this chart, when you have a trend break, right? This is not something to ignore. Bitcoin is likely going to see slowed momentum, maybe even a head and shoulders, maybe even some further downside with an accumulation range before the next year, before the new year begins. So now that we've broken the trend, instead of seeing higher highs, higher lows, it's more likely that we would see a downward channel of some kind. This is just what you look for when you're analyzing the market, guys. It's, you don't just ignore these breakdown signals. You don't just pretend that it didn't happen, right? This is more likely to take place, something along these lines, before getting bullish, moving into the halving. And if we do get a pullback like this due to the US dollar index maintaining those higher levels, this could mean Bitcoin pulls back to that classic 618 level, which would be about $21,700. That is a strong possibility, and that is an area of interest for me. And this would be fantastic accumulation zone. This would really just be a gift from the crypto gods before moving into our halving cycle. So that 618 level is what I'm targeting as long as the Fed narrative continues to stay the same. If something changes, well, everything can change. But for now, we're just getting a lot of the same. So this is something that I'd be looking for moving into the end of the year. Just wanted to hop on here, give you guys a quick rundown on what the Fed said today, what Jerome said today, and what my expectations are for Bitcoin, a little bit of summary on the US dollar index. Also, remember, my Patreon is never going to be this cheap ever again. And we also have the option of paying in crypto if you would like to just get in our Discord channel. DM me on Discord. You can pay in crypto. It is the cheapest and fastest option. And with this crypto payment option, you will be getting the $15.96 a month annual subscription. So that is really the cheapest thing you can get. That is the best deal we've ever had, just about, on my Patreon. And this is something that if you do it now and you get this price now and you take this offer now, you're going to have this membership going into the next halving and beyond, right? So you'll be set for our accumulation strategies as we enter the next cycle. Once we get to some lower levels and the Fed starts to make some changes and we start to see that the Fed is really changing their policies, we're going to be accumulating heavily Bitcoin altcoins, and you can get all my altcoin picks in Patreon. Definitely take that offer while it's here, and I'll see you guys in the next video.